You think a piece of paper gives you the right to destroy 50 years of community spirit? That's what Meredith Albright shrieked at me on a blistering Saturday morning in June, her voice echoing through a cheap plastic megaphone, while 40-odd strangers, not neighbors, mind you, strangers, were grilling breakfast sausages right on the private dock my great-grandfather built. My lagoon, my dock, my inheritance, and yet, according to the Pelican Cove HOA president, I was the self-centered jerk ruining everything. According to Meredith, this 2-acre waterfront property, the land Arthur Caldwell bought way back in 1965, 12 years before this pretentious neighborhood, the estates even had a single curb, was suddenly common property. She had spent the better part of a year sowing doubt, twisting facts, and convincing everyone that I, Leo Caldwell, was the villain for having the nerve to claim otherwise. Look, before I get into the real meat of this, I need to know I'm not crazy. So please, comment below where you're watching from, because I woke up that morning to laughter that was just too loud, too early, and coming from a place that should have been silent. It was 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday, and someone was throwing a massive, unauthorized party right on the dock my great-grandfather, Arthur, had built with his own hands, plank by painful plank. I walked to the window overlooking the Narrows. That's what we called our section of the water, and my gut just seized up. The heavy, customized, brass-plated private property sign I'd permanently bolted to the gate post the previous month was lying face down in the muddy grass, deliberately bent at a 90-degree angle. This wasn't an innocent mistake. It was calculated vandalism, and every single smug, entitled smile on that dock was confirmation. There were easily 60 people down there, portable speakers blasting some horrible Kenny Loggins track, a massive industrial grill smoking away, cheap beach chairs scattered like garbage, and kids, dozens of them, treating my well-kept lawn like a public playground. And there was Meredith, in her usual crisp white tennis outfit, radiating self-importance, working the crowd with that amplified voice like a politician at a town hall rally. I just stood there, paralyzed for a moment, absorbing the sheer, blatant audacity of the invasion. This was an organized event, premeditated, not spontaneous. I glanced down at my desk where the antique, tarnished silver compass sat. Arthur's compass, the one he'd always used to navigate the local channels. He'd given it to me, not long before he passed, pressing it into my hand. "Leo," he whispered, "this compass shows north. Never let anyone confuse your true north. Never let them take the land." At the time, I was focused on the sentimentality. Now, watching these strangers claim his legacy, I understood. It wasn't sentimentality. It was a desperate, final warning. I didn't change out of my sweatpants. I didn't bother with coffee. I just walked down the path, fueled by a cold, building fury. The music dropped the second people saw me, and a wave of silence rolled from the dock toward the house. Meredith turned, saw me, and her smile, a perfectly manicured, predatory display, didn't flicker. It widened, actually, radiating pure, practiced contempt. "Good morning, Leo," she called out, her voice sickly sweet through the megaphone. "So glad you could finally join us. We're hosting the annual Community Spirit Day. Absolutely gorgeous day for sharing the waterfront, wouldn't you agree?" I stopped dead center on the dock where the crowd parted, meeting her gaze. I forced my voice to stay level, professional, the way you deal with an insane client who refuses to pay. "Excuse me. This is private property. All of you, the entire party, need to pack up and leave now." The words felt pathetic, insignificant against the sheer force of her personality. Meredith let out a sudden, sharp, practiced laugh that cut across the stillness of the water. "Private, honey? Oh, Leo, you're mistaken. This is HOA common area. It's clearly listed in the Community Covenants package, Section 3, page 22. Perhaps you should check your documents." She made sure everyone heard, turning her head slightly for the crowd's benefit. A few people nodded, some even giving me dirty looks. One woman, a newcomer named Sharon, looked at me with genuine pity, as if I were a delusional mental patient. "We are fostering the spirit of shared amenities here, Leo," Meredith continued, reaching out and patting my forearm with an incredibly patronizing, firm squeeze. "Don't be difficult. Your great-grandfather, Arthur, was a generous man of the community. It's truly a shame that the generosity didn't pass down the generations." That hit me. It was a low, expert blow. Arthur was generous, but he knew where his property began and ended. He was a man of boundaries. I pulled out my phone instantly and started shooting photos. Faces, the grill, the massive welcome community banner, the intentionally damaged gate sign. Timestamps, GPS data, irrefutable evidence. I'm documenting this, I stated clearly. You have 10 minutes to clear out, or I am calling the local police department for criminal trespass. Meredith's smile finally slipped, revealing a momentary flash of absolute panic, but she recovered instantly. Go ahead, she shrugged, crossing her arms. The police will tell you exactly what I am telling you. This dock has been functionally part of the estates for 20 years. It's always been community property. I noticed Mr. Davies, an older resident who'd lived here longer than anyone besides me, standing near the boathouse. He was watching everything with a pained expression. When our eyes connected, he gave a tiny, subtle shake of his head, a silent warning against confrontation, but he didn't intervene. Nobody did. They just watched the show. I retreated and called the non-emergency line. The dispatcher was professional, but instantly guarded. Is there immediate danger, sir? A breach of the peace? No, I admitted, just trespassing on private property. We'll dispatch an officer when one is available, sir. Property disputes are low priority. Expect a delay of up to an hour. I thanked her, the realization sinking in. The system was designed to protect the powerful, not the righteous. While waiting, I went back inside and immediately pulled up the county property records. 5 minutes later, the undeniable truth was confirmed. Parcel ID 99, Z201. The Narrows. Owner, the Caldwell Family Trust. Purchase, 1965. Clean title. No public easements. But when I checked the HOA website, right there, under amenities, listed between the gym and the pool, the Narrows dock, community access, and fishing pier. Someone was not just mistaken. Someone was actively, knowingly committing fraud. Officer Reyes finally arrived 45 minutes later, looking utterly defeated by the combination of humidity and paperwork. I showed him the deed, the tax records, the original 1965 survey map. He studied them closely. These documents appear perfectly legal, Mr. Caldwell. Then Meredith, like a striking cobra, materialized with her thick red binder full of HOA documents, flipped to a highlighted section. All waterfront properties contribute a reasonable right-of-way to the community, she read, her voice ringing with false authority. It's in our covenants. This is not his private kingdom. Officer Reyes looked between us, visibly deflating. This is a civil matter, he sighed, handing my deed back. I cannot legally determine criminal trespass here. You need to resolve this through the HOA board or a civil court. Without clear, consistent enforcement history, I can't remove them. I was stunned. But officer, they removed my sign. They destroyed private property. He gave me a look of deep, institutionalized sympathy that felt worse than hostility. I understand, sir, but I cannot make that call. Retain an attorney. And he left. As he pulled away, Meredith walked past me, stopping close enough for her perfume to choke me. Her voice dropped to a viperous whisper. You should have just played nice, Leo. Now you're just the angry, selfish guy who hates children. Everyone knows the truth now. I stood there, alone, watching the sun glint off the water while the sound of forced community laughter echoed around me. I walked back to my study, the brass key feeling heavy in my hand. This wasn't just about ownership anymore. This was about power, the ability of a motivated group to completely rewrite reality, and the terrifying willingness of a community to believe the easiest lie. I closed my fist around the key. This wasn't over. This was the opening salvo of a war, and I was about to arm myself. That afternoon, I ordered the heaviest, most durable steel signs money could buy, custom engraved, private property, no trespassing, violators subject to arrest. Florida State Statute 810.09. I had them rushed for next-day delivery. I spent the rest of the day meticulously compiling every single document I owned. Tax assessments, the original deed, old photos. Then, I drafted a final, cold email to the HOA board. Subject, criminal trespass and demand for correction, the Narrows dock. I stated the facts with clinical precision. The Narrows dock, parcel 99, Z201, belongs exclusively to the Caldwell Family Trust. Continued unauthorized use will result in immediate criminal prosecution. You are personally liable. I requested 3 things: immediate correction of the HOA website, written confirmation that no future events would occur, and a formal apology. I attached every deed and document, hit send, and followed up with certified mail to each board member. Meredith's response came 12 hours later, a massive email blast to every resident. Subject: Urgent Community Alert, defending our waterfront access. I read it 3 times, the sheer audacity of her narrative making my jaw ache. She framed the entire situation as a battle for the soul of the community. Dear neighbors, she wrote, one resident has launched an aggressive legal attack to seize our shared waterfront amenity. Arthur Caldwell was a man of shared values. This new owner's actions are unprecedented, hostile, and threaten the very fabric of the estates. We are retaining specialized counsel to defend our collective right. She never used my name, but the subtext was crystal clear. By Sunday morning, the neighborhood Facebook group was toxic. Meredith posted a photo album of smiling families on my dock with the caption, "Community is about sharing, not hoarding. Let's stand together against greed." The comments were brutal. Typical arrogance. We need to vote him off the HOA. He should be forced to sell. Hundreds of comments. All emotion, 0 facts. I knew I couldn't fight this mob alone, and I couldn't afford to be dragged into a multi-year civil suit. I needed facts, and I needed allies. I spent Monday and Tuesday digging deep into property law, the statutes governing HOAs in Florida, and the legal definition of adverse possession. The key was clear. HOA authority is strictly limited to common areas defined at the time of the declaration. On Tuesday evening, my doorbell rang. It was Mr. Davies, the older gentleman from the dock, standing on my porch with his hands in his pockets. "Mind if I come in, Leo? You're doing your homework, I see." He sat down and told me what he knew. He confirmed Arthur was a fierce, protective negotiator. The developer desperately wanted the dock for a marina. Arthur told them no. They settled on a compromise. The estates could be built, but the Narrows would remain private forever, written right into the land use agreement. In perpetuity. Mr. Davies leaned forward, his voice low. "Meredith isn't fighting for community, Leo. She's a realtor. Converting your dock to a common amenity instantly adds $75,000 to every waterfront property's value. She gets the listing commission. This is pure, blatant self-interest." He pulled out a piece of paper. "Look at the HOA landscaping budget. Last year, $60,000. Her husband, Gary, owns the estate's maintenance company. I've never seen $60,000 worth of landscaping. It's a kickback scheme. Follow the money." He handed me a business card with the name of a respected property rights attorney. "You fight. We'll back you." Later that day, I received a certified letter, notice of HOA fine, $750 per day for unauthorized permanent structures. The private property signs I had installed. Meredith was fining me for protecting my own land. I felt a surge of cold satisfaction. Every single aggressive move she made was creating a crystal-clear paper trail of harassment and bad faith. The emergency HOA meeting was scheduled 3 days later. 57 residents showed up. Meredith was polished, professional, dominating the room. When she opened the floor, I walked to the mic, distributing bound copies of my deed and the original land use agreement. "Ownership isn't up for debate," I stated. "Bylaws don't rewrite legal deeds." But Meredith's supporters were a unified bloc. "That's just paperwork," one woman shouted. "What matters is 20 years of use." Meredith seized the moment. "Exactly. Are we going to let legal jargon destroy our history?" She moved for a vote. In favor of HOA pursuing legal action to secure access? The vote was 38-7. I lost, but I had planted the seeds of doubt. I spent the next 2 days with Mr. Davies, digging. He showed me the HOA financial statements and the illegal bylaw. She amended the waterfront access clause in 2018 with a 51% vote. State law requires 75% for property rights amendments. That clause is invalid. She's been operating under a fraudulent bylaw for years. I found the crucial evidence, the 4 smoking guns. The fraudulent invoices, payments totaling $76,000 to Gary Albright's maintenance company for dock resurfacing and pier electrical upgrade. I took photos of the dock. No new planks, no new electrical box. Fraud. The adverse possession lie. I found old family photos showing no trespassing signs clearly posted on the dock since 1999. Arthur had continuously objected. Adverse possession was impossible. The failed petition. I found minutes showing Meredith had secretly filed a petition with the county 6 months ago to establish a public easement. The county denied it. She knew the dock was private and tried to circumvent the law. The conspiracy email. I accidentally received a board email thread, quickly recalled, but downloaded, from Meredith. The county denied the easement. If we want to start the adverse possession clock, we need mandatory public events. We need photos and witnesses saying we always used it. Schedule the monthly gatherings now. A documented conspiracy to commit property theft. I met with the attorney, who confirmed my case was airtight. This is a criminal matter, Leo. Fraudulent billing, attempted theft of property, and using an illegal bylaw. You have them cornered. I want to take her down at the general meeting, I said. I want to expose her publicly before the civil suit begins. He drew up cease and desist letters and litigation hold notices. The war was officially on. 10 days before the general meeting, the vice president, Mark, a certified public accountant, CPA, reached out. He'd been documenting Meredith's financial misconduct for 2 years. I can't be complicit in fraud, Leo, he said, handing me a USB drive containing bank statements and meeting recordings. She has the board terrified. But with your deed and my financial evidence, we can end this. I used the intervening week to deploy my traps. First, certified letters to all board members outlining the upcoming criminal referral. Second, a formal public records request for all contracts with Gary Albright's company. Third, an anonymous tip, accompanied by the fraudulent invoice photos, to the county district attorney's office. I wanted the pressure to be unbearable. Meredith sent a final, desperate email outlining strict meeting protocols. Mr. Caldwell will be limited to 10 minutes. No interruptions. I replied to the entire neighborhood list. I accept the 10-minute limit, provided the president also presents her evidence under the same time constraint, and all related financial records are made available for resident review. Transparency benefits everyone. She didn't respond. The silence was its own answer. The night before the meeting, I stood on the dock, the steel signs gleaming under the moonlight. Tomorrow, the truth would get its stage. I arrived 2 hours early. Mark, the VP/CPA, was already there, helping me set up 3 different computers and projectors. We had redundancy for every possible technical sabotage. Mr. Davies and the retired attorney I'd recruited were positioned strategically in the crowd. At 7 p.m., the community center was packed, over 150 people. Meredith, in a severe Navy suit, called the meeting to order. I walked to the podium, plugged in my laptop, and began. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Over the next 10 minutes, I am going to present facts. Not emotion, not hearsay, just facts. By the end, you will understand exactly what has been happening here. I clicked to the county survey map. Parcel 99, Z201. Private. Then the deed. Fee simple absolute. The 1965 land use agreement. In perpetuity. I showed them the certified denial of Meredith's easement petition. Meredith Albright knew this property was private. The county confirmed it. The noise was palpable. Meredith stood. Mr. Caldwell, this is just a history lesson. It's the truth, Meredith. And now, let's talk about your truth. I clicked to the conspiracy email, magnified on the screen. The room exploded. She wrote this to the board. The county denied the easement. We need mandatory, public events to start the adverse possession clock. She plotted to manufacture a lie. She created a mob based on fraud. Meredith screamed. That email is out of context. You're twisting my words. The context is the conspiracy, Meredith. And the consequence is part 3, the fraud. I clicked again. The invoices appeared, $76,000 paid to Gary Albright's company. Then the photo comparison, historical versus current. No new wood, no new wires. $76,000 of your money funneled directly to the president's husband for work never performed. Mark, the VP, stood up, his voice steady. As the HOA CPA, I confirm these invoices have no supporting documentation and were approved by the president without board oversight. The crowd was on its feet, shouting. I raised my voice above the chaos. Under Florida state statute, Theft of HOA funds by an officer is a second-degree felony, which is why I invited a representative from the Deputy District Attorney's office tonight. Every head turned toward the back. The DA's representative gave a slow, deliberate nod. Meredith's face drained of all color. Mr. Davies, tears in his eyes, stood up. I knew Arthur Caldwell. He was an honest man. Meredith, you brought shame and corruption to our community. The applause was deafening. Mark moved formally. I moved for an immediate vote of no confidence in President Meredith Albright. The vote was a landslide, 143-4. Meredith Albright was removed as HOA president. She grabbed her purse, stumbling as she went, muttering threats. You'll regret this. This isn't over. Oh, it's over, someone yelled from the back. 2 weeks later, the county district attorney indicted Meredith Albright on multiple felony counts, including theft by a public servant. She took a plea bargain, 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, and massive restitution. Her husband was banned from HOA contracts. The HOA, under new, honest leadership, implemented sweeping reforms. I declined a board position, but I took on an advisory role. 3 months later, I stood on the dock, watching the work crew install the new planks and electrical system that Meredith had billed for but never delivered. I paid for it myself. I installed a small memorial in the boathouse, the Arthur Caldwell legacy. I put the silver compass in a small display case, symbol of integrity and true north. I created the Narrows guest program. Families could apply for limited, supervised access. The rules were simple: respect the property. Understand this is a privilege, not a right. My great-grandfather taught me how to stand firm. I am now teaching that same lesson to the next generation, that the truth, backed by evidence and courage, will always outlast the lie of entitlement. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced an HOA that abused its power for personal gain? Do you think the community was right to apologize, or should they have been held more accountable for their complicity? Drop a comment below, hit that like button, and let's talk about the true price of community spirit.